Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Extra chapters. MENG's blind date. Wayward young lady, Part 4. It has been said by many esteemed members of the cultivation world that the most tragic job in the world was not being a funeral worker, nor was it being a beggar but being an inn owner. Since ancient times, prominent people from all walks of life seem to have a special liking to inns and its restaurants. They have secret meetings, fights and jealous encounters in them. Prominent people like Taxian Jun and sect leader Shui. What's going on between brothers were obviously a family matter, so they could have gone back to Shisheng Peak to commence their life and death battle, but being both stubborn in nature, they didn't want to. They impatiently do their battle in the restaurant itself. Do this, the old lady who owned the place got very angry. She walked out shakily with her walking stick and for some unknown reason, unnecessarily announced herself, "I am an old lady, Shilongxia." The three of them did not understand why she was introducing herself, so they looked at each other in confusion. Finally, Taxian Wan waved his hand and said pompously, "This venerable one is Mo Weiyu, the emperor." He pointed at Chu Wanning and said, "He is Chu Wanning and he is a grandmaster." He pointed at MENG and said, "He is, never mind. He's no one important. MENG." He then turned to the old lady and asked, "Did we scared you?" The elderly lady Shilongxia wasn't afraid of violence and was bold enough to fight against dark, evil forces. She held her cane and scanned the mess, then scolded them strongly, "None of you have any sense of morals." MENG's face turned red while the face of Chu Wanning turned into an unseemly color as well. Taxian Jun, however, disapprovingly crossed his arms, not willing to accept this at all. "Hey, old lady, can't you be more tactful? Don't you know about the heroic deeds that this venerable one had performed? If this venerable one had not exerted his godly might to stop that flood that would have extinguished everything that lies under the heaven in this world, your pathetic little establishment would have turned into splinters and fragments of bricks. What's smashing a few table and chairs compared to that?" Chu Wanning scolded sternly, "Mo Weiyu." Taxian Jun coughed and said, If worse comes to worse, this venerable one will compensate you for the damages, just say how much. 100 or 200 taels of silver should be enough, right?" Owner Shilongxia was not motivated by money and continued to rub her cheek and glared at them, spitting mad. She furiously repeated her previous words, "None of you have any sense of morals. Why you?" MENG pushed Taxian Jun aside and walked forward a few steps. Fully contrite, he said to the owner, "Madam, I'm truly sorry. My temper is awful and I lost my composure for a moment and destroyed some of your chairs and tables, damaged your rooms and made a few holes on your roof. I sincerely apologized and will compensate you for the damages appropriately. Is this satisfactory enough?" Afterwards, he turned to Chu Wanning and asked, "Shizun, that should be enough, right?" Before Chu Wanning could reply, the old lady thumped the floor with her walking cane again and once again started to say furiously, "Morals dash. Yes, yes. We have no sense of morals." Taxian Jun interrupted, rolled his eyes and sighed impatiently, "Come now, old madam, what exactly do you want? We're paying compensation, we've apologized, and yet, you're still going on and on about morals. Besides, if you wouldn't give to a monk, won't you at least give face to the Buddha? You say this venerable one has no morals, fine. If you say that MENG also has no morals, this venerable one won't argue. But will you go as far as to not know who he is?" As he said this, he dragged Chu Wanning over. "Are you blind?" Chu Wanning brushed his sleeves, wanting to free himself from Taxian Jun's grasps. He scowled with his sword-like eyebrows and said angrily, "Scram. This venerable one won't scram." Not only did Taxian Jun not release his hand, instead he crooned lowly and forcibly pulled him in until their bodies were against each other. He reached out and pinched Chu Wanning's chin and said in a low voice, "You're acting like a spoiled child." MENG. Chu Wanning. Do you want to die? The old lady didn't seem to care about the heroic deeds of this Grand Master and continued to thump the floor with her walking cane, muttering, truly no sense of morals. Everyone looked at each other. This time even Chu Wanning seemed to be at a loss on how they should talk to her. As these famed cultivators were stuck in a dark corner of the second floor of the restaurant, trapped with no way to escape the harsh scolding of a white-haired wrinkly old lady who was too weak to even truss a chicken, there suddenly came the creaking sounds of hurried footsteps coming from the direction of the stairs. A young lady ran upstairs, hugged the arm of the owner, turned her head towards them and clearly said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My grandma can no longer see or hear clearly. She doesn't exactly know what's happening around her. She also can't see you properly and therefore, won't be able to recognize who you are." Meng let out an ahh, and said no wonder, so that's why. Taxian Jun was also shocked. He coughed uncomfortably and said in a low voice, "Then why didn't she tell us earlier?" Huh. The girl blinked, clearly confused. That can't be. Every time my grandma talks to someone, she'll tell them from the beginning. How did she tell them? I'm an old lady, a deaf and blind. Chu Wanning. Meng. Taxian Jun, whoever thought her name was Shi Longxia just now? Meng replied angrily, "Wasn't it you, you dog?" Since they smashed the old lady's restaurant and couldn't find a carpenter to do the repairs since it was getting dusky outside and it looked like it might rain at any moment, the three of them decided to stay for the owner's sake and do the necessary repairs to the building before the storm started. Of the three, one was a master in creating golems while one was used to hard living since childhood, and Meng, he used to frequently help Zhengyang. Together, they busied themselves, easily fixing broken chairs and tables, covering the holes on the roof and everything else. When the last broken beam was repaired, torrential rain began to pour down with a crashing sound, enclosing the whole Vuchame town in a misty haze. The old woman's granddaughter saw that the rain was too heavy and told them that it may be prudent to stay for the night and wait until the next day before they go, as the rain would most likely have stopped by then. Actually, Chu Wanning and the other two could just open a portal to return to their respective mountains, but in the end, they decided it would be a bit of a hassle. Besides, it had been a very long time since the three of them could set aside their respective normal duties to spend some time together. Rain couldn't trap these people, only their heart could. Chu Wanning looked at Ziyu Meng, who was looking anxiously back at him. He then sighed and said to the young lady, "Then, we would be troubling you for a bit." "It's no trouble at all, Grandmaster." The young lady knew exactly who was in front of her. She blushed with joy and went off hopping and skipping to prepare dinner and their rooms. The atmosphere during dinner was very tense. What Mo Ran said before was right. Nowadays, the three of them, master and disciples, weren't fit to stay under one roof anymore. Although Meng desperately missed them and badly hoped that things could go back to the days when they were as inseparable as light and shadow, it's a fact that a broken window screen can't become whole again, and gluing it back together is nothing but self-deception. It was impossible for them to pretend that nothing has happened and interact with each other exactly like before. Could Meng pretend not to know about their real relationship? Of course, he couldn't. Therefore, although Meng has been trying to talk with Chu Wanning as normal, he felt something strange. It was like when he had been informed that when they were staying at Dobeo Manor and he was talking to Chu Wanning while without his knowledge, Mo Ran was making love with his Shizun behind the bed curtains. This matter has long passed and the knowledge no longer made him feel as if the whole world was falling apart. Yet, as he sat next to them, he couldn't help but think back about this incident, and he couldn't help imagining Chu Wanning and Mo Ran, Shizun and his cousin. He truly wanted to know if back then, Chu Wanning had been so badly bullied that he couldn't resist. After all, Mo Ran could be very unreasonable. However, he dared not ask, he dared not speak about it. He could only look at Chu Wanning, wanting to ask but unable to get the words out. Shizun. Yes. Please have some more meat. Shizun. Yes. Please have some more meat. Shizun. Please have some more meat. It has been said that fighting spirit was aroused by the first roll of the drums, depleted by the second and exhausted by the third. At this point, Shuemeng felt a little tired. But when Taxian Jun saw how sect leader Shui was cozying up to the Baidu immortal, he uncharacteristically didn't try to get in between them. Instead, as if he couldn't care less, he gnawed at a bone and smiled grimly. The three of them ate at one table in relative silence until Chu Wanning couldn't bear the strange atmosphere anymore, so he got up and said, "I'm going to the room." Taxian Jun replied, "Fine, I won't see you off." Seeing this, Shuemeng couldn't hold it in any longer and threw down his chopsticks with a paw sound and called out, "Mo Ran." Taxian Jun just continued gnawing at his bone and said languidly, "What? Do you now want that fuck?" "You," he gritted his teeth and exclaimed, "you really have no idea what's good for you. How did this venerable one offended you again? Peerless cultivator. What? Peerless rascal cultivator." Shuemeng almost jumped up and strangled Taxian Jun. Like a flying bird and a jumping dog, they fought against each other until both got out of breath. They stared at each other again, across the table that separated them. Shuemeng slammed the table and raged, "Tell me. Why did you betray Shizun? Hey, come on Shuemeng. You can't actually be that serious with your simpering act. Under the illusion spell, you said he was being unfair to this venerable one, that he was the playboy of the cultivation world just like that Jiangshi. You said all that yourself. That's because you told things out of context." Shuemeng argued angrily. "Why do you say that he left you alone at home when clearly at that point he had already transformed into floating ash and smoke on the wind, both for their sake and for the sake of that mortal world?" Even if their misunderstanding was cleared up and the details of the entire story became known, this part of the story was for both Shuemeng and Taxian Jun, a most delicate wound that neither of them dare not touch. Taxian Jun stared at him and said, "Don't say it." "I wasn't going to." After their mutual stare down, Shuemeng said, "In anyways, I'll never believe that Shizun would ever be unfaithful. The person you were taking a dig at must have been someone you have made up. This venerable one did not make that up? Then who is it?" "It's that hypocrite Grandmaster Mo." "You," Shuemeng's voice trailed off as he seemed to have lost his ability to think. After freezing off for a long time, he finally came back to his senses. He slammed both hands on the table, stood up and shouted furiously, "You're insane. You have been insulting that person all this time and I wasted so much effort helping you and it turns out, I've been listening to you beat yourself up this entire time. You've been chugging your own vinegar, you madman. You should be sent to Gaiyuye for treatment. Should I make an appointment with Jiangshi for you? If you use my name, I'm sure he will give you a discount." Oh. Taxian Jun was someone who was particularly keen when it came to certain matters. He lifted his head astutely and brewed his way past all obstacle to directly strike at that blind spot and asked, "Wait, why would I be given discount if I use your name?" "I." Taxian Jun narrowed his eyes and asked sharply, "Since when did you have such good relationship with Zhang Yuchen?" I. Shuemeng trailed off for a while and couldn't come up with any answer aside from "I." If one were to ask if there were things that Taxian Jun still didn't know despite living 2 lifetimes already, the only answer would probably be the particulars about Shuemeng's birth. The fact that Jiangshi was Shuemeng's biological father had been Madame Wang's well-kept secret. After the deaths of Madame Wang and Xue Zhenyang, only the pair of father and son knew about it without exception, especially outsiders. Taxian Jun wouldn't naturally be able to figure out the true relationship of Shuemeng and Jiangshi. At the moment, he watched Shuemeng's face turn from white to red then red to green until finally he looked like he was suffering greatly from trying to restrain himself from speaking. Suddenly, A flash of light went off in his mind as he instantly gained wisdom of what could be going on. Ah! Could it be? So, it's like that. Taxian Jun himself liked an older, frigid man like Chu Wanning and had pushed himself onto the other man. He felt that there were probably others who have similar taste as him. So, his thoughts instantly turned into the gutter as he looked at Meng with newfound respect. Who could have known? No need to say more. Taxian Jun suddenly lost all his anger. He got up and filled a cup of wine in the manner of a hero facing a fellow hero. Admiringly, he raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. Then he turned over the cup and praised, Meng. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be, cough. I have an entire new level of respect for you. You really did it? Do accept this venerable one's congratulations. Meng. It has to be pointed out that Meng did not have much interaction with this Taxian Jun personality of Mo Ran S. He was only used to dealing with his upright cousin Grandmaster Mo and therefore didn't know about an important point. When speaking with Taxian Jun, the phrase did it often meant something that no ordinary person would think. Meng was in a haze as cup after cup was poured for him. He didn't know why he was being praised with brother, you really did it, nor what he was being congratulated for. He could only vaguely hear Taxian Jun asking as he cozied up to him, so, what do you think of it? Was it good? Do you think you can handle it? Meng thought he was talking about the wine and muttered, how could I? It was way too much. I can't really take. He was already dizzy and growing more and more nauseous. Mo Ran, that dog actually poured that strong liquor down his throat. This won't do. He's going to complain to Shizun. He staggered towards Chu Wanning's room but was stopped by Taxian Jun. Meng stared blankly, wondering why Taxian Jun was suddenly so animated. He dazedly asked. What are you doing? Taxian Jun grabbed Meng and raised his eyebrows. One gets to know the self through wine and 1,000 cups is too few. It's very rare for us to get a chance to chat, so what are you embarrassed about? You know, with your personality, this venerable one has long realized that no girl would be able to stand you. For you to finally get this point is no easy feat, listen to Gaji. Meng could hardly stand up as his face was turning green. Let go. I want. Taxian Jun didn't care about what he wanted. He only felt that it was a rare thing for Meng to reach conclusion like this. This Didi was finally learning from his examples and realizing that betting a more senior cultivator was this world's greatest pleasure. First, the Gaji will pamper Yu Heng of the night sky, Grandmaster Chu. Then the Didi will seize the night fragrant Palia, Zhang Yuchen. How wonderful! After he returned home, he wanted to hang the grand records of the heroic exploits of these two brothers around the necks of booksellers and demand that they print 10 million copies to distribute throughout the cultivation world. With this, he could become rich again. So, Taxian Jun joyously said, this venerable one had done an extensive study in this field. Since you are this venerable one's Didi, I will be happy to advise you on the more difficult points. Let go. I wanna. This venerable one knows you want to, but in terms of physical strength, yours is not as good as this venerable one, so you can't take on too much. So, it would come down to your skills. Naturally, the skills of this venerable one are exceptionally. K. A violent sound of retching interrupted Taxian Jun's incessant self-promotion. Meng. Ziming had vomited on the face of the beautiful Dashixian, Mei Hangxiu before. Now, he had vomited on the face of the handsome face of the butterfly-boned beauty feast, the emperor of a mortal world, and did so wildly with no reservations. Taxian Jun's face suddenly turned black. Meng. How dare you throw up on this venerable one's clothes? This venerable one had to go down the mountain to help chop firewood for an entire day in order to earn enough to buy these robes. Fuck. In response, Meng's eyes rolled up and once again made a spectacular mess. Blurg. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Extra chapters. MENG's blind date. Wayward young lady, part 5. Taxi and June have never felt so wronged more than ever. Not even when he went down to the mountain to chop firewood, slaughter pigs, and take care of children. That's because whenever he went down the mountain to earn money, he would change his appearance and use the name Grandmaster Go. To be honest though, he didn't know whether to be happy or sad since the villagers had a very good opinion of Grandmaster Go. They praised that Grandmaster Go was strong and tough, that he would do whatever task he was given and leave as soon as he's done, like a very good dog. Their only complaint was that this person loved to brag and would frequently spout things such as when I was young, I had thousands of servants, or when I was young, I had countless treasures, so on and so forth. Also, whenever his temper flare up, he would always threaten to cut off people's head even when he was trying to pacify a child. In the end, when the employer threatened to cut his wages, he put on a fake smile and bounced that child that he had scared to tears. Between gritted teeth, he comforted the child by singing, rocking, rocking, rocking down to Nahi Bridge, Granny Meng will call me a good baby. When the child burst into laughter and the employer had turned away, no longer paying attention, he grounded his teeth and whispered, just you wait. When Chu Wanning isn't looking, this venerable one would take off with all the property you fiendish villagers owned. Bah! But this time was different. This time he was not under disguise, nor was he using a fake name. MENG had vomited all over the robes of the magnificent Emperor Taxian Jun, he could only throw the ruined robes away. Now, wearing only a plain unadorned inner robe, he looked like a destitute and dejected laborer. Even worse, he still had to clean up the floors. How dare everyone else went to bed, leaving him the only one awake. With a disgusted face, Taxian Jun carried MENG back to his assigned guest room. He threw him onto the bed, then carelessly covered him with a quilt. You damn drunkard! He raised his hand and with a paw sound, slapped MENG. In response, MENG groaned and whined. Taxian Jun stood for a moment, felt that everything seemed pointless, and then went out. However, instead of returning to his room, he asked the shopkeeper for a few pots of wine and then went to the stairway of the inn where he sat by himself to drown his sorrows. He deliberately made a lot of noise, exaggerating all his movements and sounds in the hopes that Chu Wanning would give some sort of response. Unfortunately, they had been busy working most of the day, and the one who finally responded to him was some random inn guest who poked his head out of the window and shouted, "Are you crazy?" Taxian Jun viciously looked up and answered back, "Are you tired of living?" That random inn guest would never have known that the one outside was the Emperor, Taxian Jun. He was startled and immediately crawled back into his room. Taxian Jun rolled his eyes and muttered, "If this venerable one hadn't been in a good temper, you'd already be missing your head. Idiot." He continued to drink. The more he drank, the more wronged he felt. After he had jugged down some wine, he glanced hatefully at the guest room at the end of the hall. The lights in the room had already gone out, and Chu Wanning hadn't come out to comfort him or even seemed to care whether he returned or not. He actually went straight to bed. Taxian Jun grounded his teeth. If he were Grandmaster Mo, Chu Wanning would long have since come out to keep him company and support him with kind, sweet, comforting words. He was so angry that he gulped down yet another pot. MENG said that he was no different from Grandmaster Mo. Chu Wanning said that he was the same person as Grandmaster Mo. Even Grandmaster Mo himself said that there was no difference between them, just different version of one person. They're all wrong. Taxian Jun's paranoia as well as his petty and twisted way of thinking were different. Just look at Chu Wanning's attitude towards him. Why did he lost the brocade bag that he had gifted him and only kept the rug that was made by that hypocrite? They tricked him into being impolite. They were keeping things from him. Everyone in the world has betrayed him. Even Chu Wanning didn't care about him at all. Yes, he came to Vuchame town to look for him, but he didn't even have a single kind word for him. He didn't even apologize for losing the Kixie gift he gave him. Taxian Jun had searched through multiple books to find his favorite phrases to embroider on that brocade bag. No one else could have gotten that same gift, not matter how much they wanted it. Chu Wanning have no idea what good he had. Drinking even more, he became a bit confused. Hugging the wooden railings of the stairwell to steady himself, the words "This venerable on is not happy" was written all over his face. Feeling dazed, he seemed to have heard a door opening somewhere. Then he heard footsteps which stopped at where he was. Taxian Jun raised his head, and in the misty candlelight, he saw that pure, beautiful face that he had wrongly hated for half a lifetime, pined after for 10 years, and had thirst after across 2 worlds. He stared for a bit before muttering, "Chu Wanning," toward the new arrival. Just saying this name out loud made the pit of his stomach feel funny. Whether or not he was under the influence of the 8 sufferings and everlasting hatred flower, his heart from the beginning to the end has always had the strongest, most desperate desires for Chu Wanning. His heart seemed to be steeped in longing. But aside from longing, there was also an excess of grievance, warmth, hurt and fondness. Did he not love him? From the bottom of his heart, his feelings towards Chu Wanning had never been any less than those of his other self. But what could he do? He had been a puppet for the last 10 years of his other life, then a walking corpse. The 8 sufferings and everlasting hatred flower had carved a hole in his flesh. He was like a wicked dragon who has been trapped in the darkness for too long and had gotten used to loneliness as a companion, tyranny as his servants. When the sunlight of the mortal world unreservedly embraced him once more, he was terrified. The dragon that he was could only howl like a demon and brandished his claws, which were riddled with dents and scars yet still sharp. In this way, this venerable one could show off his disdain in being associated with the likes of Grandmaster Mo. But the truth was, he knew inside just how much he envied the him that could relive his life in another world. Even if the facts were displayed right in front of him one by one, even if each and every person told him that Grandmaster Mo is you two are the same person, he wouldn't be able to acknowledge it. He'd cover his head and refuse it. He'd say, "No. This venerable one is different from that person." In reality, he knew that he was lying. After all, how many times had he dreamt of it when he was at Wushan Palace, dreamt that he had gone back to the beginning, that the world hadn't gone ablaze, that he was beside him. But every time he woke up, all that had vanished. He had laid in his too large bed curtains flying around him. He hated waking up, hated Dukjo, the gods of dreams, for not returning those nice dreams to him, hated Zhuangsheng for not allowing his butterfly to become his reality. So, every time he would shout, "This venerable one is not Grandmaster Mo," he wondered who might come to comfort him. He wanted to grab a few palace maids and have them yell out hundreds of times a day, "You are Grandmaster Mo. You and him are one and the same." Then he would be at peace. "Why did you drink so much?" Chu Wanning entered his field of vision with knitted brows. He then tried to help him up but was himself pulled down by an outstretched hand. "Mo Ran, what's gotten into?" "Oh." He embraced Chu Wanning with all the strength he has, not caring for anything else, and enveloped him in a fierce, deep kiss. But when the kiss became more and more ardent, he seemed to have thought of something, and as if deliberately imitating someone, the act suddenly gentled. This venerable one could do it, too. While Chu Wanning was dazed under the fragrance of wine and his melancholy kisses, Taxian Jun murmured, "It's not that hard." Chu Wanning didn't know exactly what he was talking about, but he stiffened nonetheless. The hallway was too open. There was no cover to speak of. He was afraid that someone would come out and chance upon this scene. He tried to struggle free from Taxian Jun's embrace, but Taxian Jun pressed him against the wooden railings and kissed him even deeper. Based on how Taxian Jun typically do things, it wouldn't be a surprise if they started unabashedly doing things right there on the stairwell. But as Chu Wanning resisted more and more, Taxian Jun suddenly and unexpectedly ended the kiss, his purplish black eyes drooped slided, fixated on Chu Wanning's moist lips. He moved closer, wanting to continue. After a while, he kissed him again, acting like a loyal dog begging to be fed by his master. Chu Wanning. Taxian Jun kissed him 3 more times, then stopped. Although his eyes said otherwise, he restrained himself and simply held Chu Wanning in his close embrace. He signed heavily, "Tell me, is this venerable one dreaming again?" This man was always uncontrollably aggressive and rarely sniffled like this into Chu Wanning's shoulder. Chu Wanning was astonished but then seemed to have grasped an insight. In this world, no matter which of Moran's soul it was, no matter which personality, he would always know him best. Chu Wanning raised his hand, caressed his hand and petted him as he had done when he was younger, then said, "It's not a dream. Let's go back to our room." Taxian Jun was drowsy but still muttered stubbornly, "I'm not sleeping, I'm not going back." Chu Wanning asked helplessly, "What are you making a fuss for now?" Taxian Jun was obviously unhappy, so he was groaning and whining as he still felt terribly wronged. He replied, "You already put out the lights before looking for this venerable one. Are you trying to make this venerable one angry on purpose?" This person was the emperor of the other world, and yet, when he was like this, drunk and sniffling against his neck, Chu Wanning suddenly thought that Taxian Jun was like a beautiful concubine, jealous and clamoring for his favor. Chu Wanning felt silent for a while at this mental image. Finally, he said, "Didn't I learn this from you? It was you who said that you have to put out the lights so that those who wouldn't dare to come in could take advantage of the darkness and sneak in. I was saving face for you." "Nonsense. Who wanted you to save my face?" Half asleep and half awake and still enraged, he continued, "This venerable one has destroyed the heavens and extinguished the earth. What things could this venerable one dare not to do?" The voice slowly faded. "Chu Wanning." "Yes. Wanning." In the end, the voice became gentle and very much the same tone as when he was still young and naive, "Shizun." Chu Wanning was silent for a moment before he raised his hand and caressed his hair. "Yes. When I wake up tomorrow, will you still be here?" Chu Wanning closes his eyes and repeated the same phrase he often uttered in this past 2 years of seclusion, "Go to sleep, I'll always be here." With this, Taxian Jun felt content. After a while, there was a sound of even breathing. The drunk emperor was finally at peace and finally asleep. Chu Wanning supported him as he walked them back to their room. Lying in bed with his face lax in sleep and bereft of its wicked expressions, he looked no different from the youth he took in as a disciple all those years ago. The youth who would use an umbrella to save earthworms. The parasitic evil flower had withered and the nightmare would never come again. Just. Then why did you lose this venerable one's brocade bag? In his sleep, Taxian Jun suddenly kicked the quilt and shouted. "This venerable one will go on a blind date. This venerable one wants to win, the Dobeo Manor's treasure box. 500 volumes, rare erotic art." Fortunately, the second part was said in vague mutterings and Chu Wanning didn't hear clearly. But even though Chu Wanning didn't know that his ultimate goal for going on a blind date was to get erotic books, when he was faced with this man who were making petty complaints whilst asleep, he couldn't help but facepalm and endure endless headaches. Even if you beat him to death, he wouldn't tell MENG that he had lost Taxian Jun's brocade box because the man had shamelessly embroidered it with passages from the erotic story, 18 Caresses. Compared to Grandmaster Mo's dignified embroidery of verses wishing for peace and contentment, who would prefer to wear something with 18 caresses? He would also never tell Moran, not even if you beat him to death, that he had not actually lost that brocade bag that symbolized Taxian Jun's temperament pretty well, that it was actually locked in a wooden box that only he could open. It was kept there, along with everything else that the man had gifted him. The next day, MENG got up early. Being under the same roof as Chu Wanning was now a rarity, so he decided to go out and buy some of his Shizun's favorite breakfast items as a sign of respect. But when he went downstairs, he found that a table near the inn's window was already covered with a sumptuous breakfast and that Mo Ran was already laying out bowls and chopsticks. As soon as the man looked up and saw him come down, Mo Ran laughed and commented, "Up so early." Although he had long since known that Mo Ran would change personality after 3 days, it was still strange to experience it directly. Xue Meng remained still for a while. He stood there for a long time before he grunted an affirmative. "I made a fool of myself yesterday. Sometimes, I'm just like that." Xue Meng scratched his head and said uncomfortably, "Forget it. It's not like it's the first time I've had reason to laugh at you." He then proceeded to check out the table and couldn't help but asked, "Did you borrow the kitchen from the shopkeeper?" "Yes," Grandmaster Mo answered with a laugh as he put down a plate of golden pan-fried pork buns in front of him. "There's still congee boiling on the stove. It's almost ready. Would you do me a favor and help me make 3 bowls?" "Sure," Xue Meng answered and went to the small kitchen with Mo Ran. When he lifted the pot lid, the steam from the congee emitted a strong fragrance. The congee itself was full of shrimp and sliced fish. Mo Ran nimbly filled 3 bowls and Xue Meng helped find the condiments. He placed halved soft-boiled eggs right on the steaming congee, then sprinkled on white sesame seeds, chopped tender scallions, golden crisp fritters and a few drops of sesame oil until the final results was both fragrant and beautiful. Xue Meng was curious and could help asking, "The you from yesterday, can he make something like this, too?" "Yes, and no worse than what I do now," Mo Ran replied. "It's just that he gets angry easily and likes to throw tantrums. Actually, a lot of these recipes are the ones he thought up when he was in control but have never made them and just left them for me to prepare." Xue Meng said made a few muttering sounds and asked, "Why did Shizun lose his brocade bag and keep yours?" The hand that Mo Ran was using to slice the eggs stilled. Then he turned towards Xue Meng with a smile and answered, "We're one person and this is an embarrassing matter, so I can't tell you." Xue Meng stared at him and said, "Haven't you embarrassed yourself plenty enough in front of me? What's the use of being discreet now? You were not even embarrassed to call me that peerless something yesterday. Speaking of which, our accounts aren't settled yet." However, Grandmaster Mo was truly a man who did as he pleased. He immediately changed his tune and said, "We are 2 people. You can settle things with Taxian Jun when he comes back. Meanwhile, be good for now." Xue Meng. Right." When the last bowl of seafood congee was ready, Mo Ran seemed to suddenly have thought of something and told Xue Meng with great seriousness, "I have something else to tell you." Xue Meng was shocked by how serious he had gotten suddenly and felt an inexplicable pressure. Say it then." Mo Ran continued, "Actually, I don't know what you were thinking or what exactly happened between the 2 of you for you to suddenly. Well, in any case it's your private matter and I'm not in the position to question it. But I gave it a thought and as your Gji and since I've learned of this matter, I felt that I ought to offer you some advice." Xue Meng. Xue Meng, you're still young and you're free to experiments with your feelings, but his age, experience, and status are all much higher than yours, so it might be hard for you 2 to get along. You have a strong temper, so remember to be more restrained and a bit more tolerant. I'll keep your secret, and if you have anything you're confused about, you can come to Nanping Mountain to see me while Shizun is away." Mo Ran patted him on the shoulder and said, "Never follow my example and go on a blind date to piss him off. Don't you feel ashamed saying that?" Xue Meng asked, then paused. Then he shook his head and continued, "No, hold on, what are you talking about?" Mo Ran warmly and indulgently looked toward him the way an older brother would and said, "It's all right, Gji has the experience and understand your difficulties. In fact, whether it's Shizun or sect leader Zhang, they are both highly positioned, solitary figures who value their reputations. You're still young, so when you have arguments, better apologized first. A harmonious family leads to prosperity. MENG immediately turned deathly white. How did you know that? How did you find out? Me and him, we are not. Moran said, I realized it yesterday, that's why I'm offering my congratulations now. MENG was shocked as he asked, is it that obvious? Moran laughed and patted him again. It's not that bad, but you could stand to be a little more retrained. MENG collapsed. MENG thought he had restrained himself well enough. How could Moran realize so quickly that Jiangxi and him were father and son? Fortunately, he swiftly flew out of the kitchen that he didn't hear. Moran shook his head and sighed, strange. What happened these past 2 years? How could MENG and Jiangxi develop feelings towards each other? Didn't he used to strictly like girls? Ayo. I could exhaust my brain and would still never understand. Even as MENG bid his farewells to Moran and Chu Wanning, he didn't know that in Moran's eyes, he had undergone a tremendous change, that he and Moran were now of the same type. Before they parted, MENG grabbed onto Moran and warned him anxiously, you can't tell anyone about Zhang Yuchen and me. You can't tell anyone that I'm the son of that dog thief. Moran sincerely raised his hand and swore, I will keep your secret. I'm not going to tell anyone that you have hooked up with sect leader Zhang. With that, the two brothers reached a tacit understanding, and under Chu Wanning's perplexed gaze, they bumped fists. Then Gaji took Chu Wanning back to Nanping Mountain while Didi stepped out into the puddled streets, suffused with the clear rays of the morning sun as he moved to return to the misty cloud-covered Shisheng Peak. End chapter.